Ali.
Thank you very much, very kindly, Comrade Indra. And I did see Comrade Donald outside there as the door opened. And in keeping with the very rich tradition of the PPP, we have heard a lot this afternoon. You know, we have very long speakers. And that's part of the rich tradition of the PPP. If Comrade Indra you would indulge her, she will remind you of the beautiful days when the Central Committee took 3 days.
Oh, yes.
So
We like talk.
that's part of the culture. Every organization, you know, we have different culture. You know, sitting at this head table and reflecting on those around me, including Comrade Doctor, you can see a very distinct attribute of the People's Progressive Party. For example, if Comrade Janet was alive today, you would have had the difference between a sitting president and her age being about 60 years. If you look at the head table here, we have Comrade Nocta. The difference in the oldest person and the youngest person is quite some years, maybe 35 years. But why do I say that? I say that to say this. The People's Progressive Party has always been a great incubator of national talent and of young people, and the party that has grown in such a massive way because of the ability of the leadership of the party to incubate young persons in the leadership. And that is why, you know, Comrade Gale can speak of generation and the value system and the culture of the party that is passed on from generation to generation. In this audience, too, we have persons who have served various presidents of the party for all the time since 1992 we were in government. We have Ambassador Elizabeth Harper, who was a former prime ministerial candidate for us and still serves. We have Nancy sitting at the back there. But these are all persons who made tremendous contributions to the development and the gains of our party. We have Comrade Nocta in the audience here. We can't really speak of Comrade Janet without recognizing some of these comrades who work, and sometimes one of the great dangers in identifying someone of great character like Comrade Janet is that we sometimes forget that she operated and believed strongly in a team and was part of an organization. And you can have the greatest leaders, but if those leaders are not supported by a team and a group of persons who share the vision and aspirations, then you can't really be successful. And I think we ought to give all these comrades, Comrade Ralph, all the comrades who are here and who serve with her, a resounding round of applause. Because it is their work also that really helped to shape the successes that Comrade Janet would have achieved. And not only in the leadership, but across the country, in the communities, and I will want to speak about that in a few moments. You know, the month of October is a very special month for us in the People's Progressive Party. Important events in our party's history took place during this month. We are here today to recall the life and legacy of one of the party's foundational pillars, Mrs Janet Jagan, whose 102nd birth anniversary we observe today. Janet Jagan's name is etched in our country's history. Her achievements cannot be erased. She was part of the historic struggle for independence. She was in the political vanguard in our country's epic campaign for the restoration of democracy, and later for its consolidation after 1992. The toil of the years on the political front line deprived us of her wisdom and leadership when she had to resign from the president because of ill health. Comrade Gale spoke a bit about that period and how it contributed to her ill health. But we are comforted that her legacy cannot be erased or diminished, not by the passage of time or by the maliciousness of the detractors. Comrade Janet Jagan will remain a timeless figure in our party and country's history. Janet Jagan was a phenomenal woman. She was a bastion in the fight for the restoration of democracy, a champion of the working class, and one of Guyana's foremost advocates for women's rights and freedoms. Our party and government remain wedded in the ideals of Janet Jagan. We are committed to the same causes and objectives to which she devoted her entire life. We have not deviated from our struggle for equality for women, the end of exploitation and improvement of the working class. Janet Jagan was a constant and consistent agitator for women's rights. 1 year after arriving in Guyana, she took up the challenge in support of women's rights. The Political Affairs Committee and the Women's Political and Economic Organization, which she founded, led strident and sustained agitation for universal adult suffrage and for women's rights and empowerment. She linked the struggle for universal adult suffrage to the rights of women, since at that time, the majority of women were disenfranchised from voting because of poverty considerations. For Janet, this was not only about the right to vote, but also about empowering women politically. As I have said before, she helped to pilot and lent her support to legislation which secured betterment for women. During her tenure as Minister with responsibility for health, labor, and housing, she promulgated legislation which reduced the hours of work for store workers, most of whom are women, and extended protection for domestics. Recognizing the difficulties which women and their families face as a result of landlordism and poor living conditions, she established housing for working-class families. Janet Jagan expanded our understanding of women's rights. She saw women's rights as going beyond something that is enacted in law and the Constitution. For her, women's rights were not paper rights, but must have social and economic dimensions. Speaking in the country's National Assembly in 1981, a time of retrenchment, food shortages, and declining social services in the country, this is what she said, and I quote, "Women's rights are about full employment. They're about a decent wage. They're about having proper pre- and postnatal care. Women's rights are about not having 2 pregnant women in 1 bed in the hospital. Women's rights mean that women do not have to carry buckets of water, and they must not spend 52 hours queuing up for the most essential things like salt and flour, and butter and soap. Women's rights means that you must give minimum wage to domestic workers and not talk about maximum hours." End of quote. This is what Comrade Janet said in 1981, when women's rights and women empowerment was a taboo issue. The issues she identified then are still most relevant in our societies today. The issues she identified then are fundamental to the development of society and the advancement of women. This is a philosophy which still guides us, our party, and our government. We are committed wholeheartedly to ensuring not just the political rights, but social and economic rights of women, and to especially ensuring that they receive equal treatment. When you look at most women's rights movement today, they focus heavily on equality in the working environment, in wages, in conditions of work. But Comrade Janet went many steps further when, since in 1981, she spoke about social rights, economic rights, political rights, a justice system that is fair to women, infrastructure, social infrastructure that understand the specific needs of women. In 1981. So she was a woman far ahead. She was far ahead of her time. For Janet Jagan, politics was praxis. She was no book politician. She believed and insisted on going out into the communities to meet, listen, learn, and organize. This experience allowed her to have a first-hand grasp and understanding of the struggles of the ordinary people. When she spoke, whether it was in the legislature or at party meetings, she spoke from experience. She understood the reality on the ground, and she identified with the suffering of the working class. There are practically, her approach to politics was a practical approach. She was the unfaltering champion of the working class. While her commitment to the working class may have been influenced by her ideological stance, no one can dispute that first and foremost, she was a profound humanitarian. Only a few days ago, Francis, who was her ADC and the ADC of Comrade Cherry, was telling me that when he was building his home, she reached out to him and helped him in the construction of his home. And I know many other persons who benefited that way. She was always willing to help ordinary people and to right whatever wrongs they have suffered. She was a fervent defender of the poor and powerless. Janet Jagan worked relentlessly to improve their well-being. It was through her exertions that the party was able to build the party's support base at the grassroots. She was one of the ablest party organizers. Her ability to connect with the ordinary citizens endeared the public to her and to the PPP. How do we sum up her life? In paying tribute to her after her death on the 28th of March 2009, the National Assembly passed a resolution describing her, and I quote, "As a pioneer in politics and the struggle for independence and women's rights, being among one of the first women members of the legislature in Guyana, the first female to be made deputy speaker in the world in 1953, one of the longest serving members of the National Assembly, the first female minister in Guyana, the first female prime minister on the 17th of March 1997, and the first female president of Guyana on the 19th of December 1997, end of quote. Those who now maliciously assert that the party is departing from ideals of Janet Jagan do not understand the nature of the People's Progressive Party. The party is Janet Jagan and her husband's enduring legacy to our country and the working class. The PEP is and will always remain the party of these two legends. We who stand on the shoulders of the achievements of these iconic leaders continue to try our best to walk in their footsteps. We remain committed to their working class ideals. When we invest in better education for our children, we are fulfilling the legacy of Janet Jagan. When we improve health care, we are initiating her concern for the well-being of the poor. Our massive housing drive draws inspiration from her tremendous efforts in providing home for for the working class families. When we provide support for children, the elderly, and the disabled, we are continuing the mission of serving the most vulnerable. When we stand up and defend democracy and the rule of law, we are defending their legacy and their struggles. So long as we continue to demonstrate our commitment to respect our women, safeguarding women's equality, and to champion the interests of workers, Janet Jagan will be smiling in the great beyond, to which one day we will all have to go. Before I close, I want to say that Comrade Janet's life was around a few thematic areas: social justice, political justice, economic justice, and global justice. I was fortunate to be in the leadership of the party while she was still alive. And I know in all her analysis, there is always an intentional approach to contextualize whatever we are going through in Guyana in a global environment. And this is something that most of the leadership of our party in their analysis will do, because we understand that we do not operate on an island by ourselves, but we are part of a global environment. But in all these aspects, the social, political, economic, and global justice that she stood for, they were based on some foundational pillars, some very important foundational pillars. The first pillar is people. She believed that people were, one, the output, whatever she was doing, must be for the betterment. The output must be the betterment of people. And whatever she was approaching to do, the input was people, because she mobilized people to help her to achieve the output. So people was the center of everything she did. And how did she demonstrate this? She understood that times will change, people will change, and there must be a system that records history. Comrade Janet, Comrade Gail, and Comrade Indra spoke about this. The truth is, if it was not for Comrade Janet, meticulous note-taking and sense of history and sense of organization, we would not have had some of the historical material that the party is still in possession of. She was a custodian, but I'm sure, like many of us, we don't like a lot of papers stocked up, but she understood the importance of this. More importantly, she understood the importance of breaking down the history of our country into stories for our children. And she led a revolution in educating the children. Sometimes we forget this aspect of her life. So people education and bringing people along in the struggle was a very important foundational pillar in achieving the different justice system that I spoke of. Then she believed a lot in systems. She believed in the educational system, the healthcare system. She believed in strengthening those systems to deliver goods and services to the people. If you look at her work and you examine some of the things that she did in her life, you would see that there was always a systems approach. It was never a Janet Jagan approach. If you look at the trade union movement, you would see her hands in developing systems. Then on the institutional side, she believed in strong institutions, the judiciary. Her contribution in the legislature were enormous. Many of the committees that were developed were because of her strong advocacy. So she believes in the strength of institutions. She believed in cultural values. Although she came from a totally different culture, she understood the importance of the various cultures in Guyana in the political life. of the country, in the social life of the country. And she integrated that culture in the work that she did here. Community and society were other important pillars. In every single community you go, you would see or find someone who had a connection or an attachment to her. Our old organizers, she reached out to them. She was one of the leaders in the party that would reach out and know those who were in need, because she believed in the connection between the society and communities. One of the important hallmarks of Comrade Janet was her sense of organization, her organizational skills. If you go through the history of the party, you will see her hands in keeping the party together. You will see the work she did in developing organizations. The mirror that Comrade Ralph spoke about was an enormous entity that most of the leaders passed through, that was single-handedly organized and formed and framed and nurtured by her. The thunder we heard of. I'm very happy also that as young leaders, you are placed on the thunder board. When you sit at these forums, that is why Comrade Indra and Comrade Gale made a point, and Comrade Clement. The sense of history. When you understand the history of the thunder, and then you know that you were fortunate enough and humble, and you had this humble opportunity to sit on a board of thunder that has such a rich history, you feel a greater connection with the history of our country. So today, I think the management of Red House and all those who played such a critical role in organizing this event are not only doing justice to Comrade Janet, but they are carrying on her rich legacy of educating people, sharing history, having that sense of history, and connecting the present with what we are all evolved from. And we still have in this party exceptional contributors to national development, many of whom are here today. Comrade Nocta, I don't think there is any person who would have given so much of their life and time to the transformation of hinterland and riverine communities. Comrade Ralph, Comrade Gale, Comrade Clement, Comrade Indra, Comrade Donald outside, and all the other comrades now in the system. You see, we must never ever be afraid of transition. We must always prepare ourselves for transition. When you become afraid of transition, then you're separating yourself from organization. It is when we are selfish in our endeavor, we become afraid of transition. When we are pro-organization and understand that we are part of something that is larger than us, transition becomes a natural course. It becomes a natural course. And that is what the PPP has always been about. Building up enough, if you want to put it in a military term, firepower to make transition seamless. Transition does not mean removal of talent. As I just demonstrated earlier, you sit in a central committee with experience differences, not age differences. Experience differences of 30 and 35 years. But those are 30 and 35 years that are important for the molding of who are coming up. So, as we continue to build the legacy of Comrade Janet, and this legacy is for all of Guyana, but for the party that she built, we have an added responsibility. Every member of the PPP we have an added responsibility to the people of this country. I always say that. Because we do not bring the burden of racial division or divisiveness. Fundamentally, every member of the PPP is built in an environment in which we see Guyana belonging to all of us. That is why I can say very confidently anywhere, I am not part of a system that indoctrinated racism. I am part of a system in the People's Progressive Party that indoctrinated us in national unity. We are from a movement that believes in national unity. We don't have to make a special effort for this. It comes naturally with us. So when we deliver our housing program, our health program, our education program, it is built on social justice, political justice, economic justice. It is not guesswork. You know, I said at a forum the other day that when you solve problems too easily, people don't really believe there is a problem. And I said in the last 2 years, we came into government in the worst global environment, COVID-19. When we came into government, we had a COVID building. The hospital did not even have an oxygen tank, not a bed. We came with the worst cost of living crisis, the worst inflation crisis, the worst food crisis, the worst logistics and transportation crisis, the worst energy crisis, the worst climate crisis. We faced 4 floods, a movement in energy costs by almost 300%. And still, we have positioned Guyana on a growth and development path that is outstanding by every assessment. And that is because of the consistency of our value system, the consistency of our belief system. The structure of our policy is always oriented around people. Even the expansion of the private sector, even the private sector growth and development took place under Comacheri. Then it went into depression in the period of dictatorship, non-existence. But even the work to support private sector development is done in a way to bring people along. So as we celebrate and reflect on the legacy of Comrade Janet, we cannot do so without reflecting on the legacy of our party and the work of our party in and out of government for the people of this country. I thank you.
Let's put our hands together for our president. It is quite an insightful presentation, and you are going to leave here today with lots of information. And I want to let the president know that we're very proud of him, and I know that Comrade Janet would have been very, very proud of the way that you have been carrying yourself right across this country. We're proud of our party and all our leaders for the things they are doing for the country. And we know there are still better days ahead for Guyana, and we will all be, even Nocturne, myself, and Rohi, we will be around to enjoy those better days. So as I said earlier, we will have, the president will want to leave because he has another commitment, and I want to say to him how grateful we are that he made this time to be with us today. I think it was very important for him to have been here, especially for 2 points. One, not only is the birth anniversary of Comrade Janet, but it's also the 30th anniversary of the return to democracy. And that is equally important, because if we all didn't contribute towards that struggle for democracy, what followed and what we are inheriting today would not have materialized. So that was very important for us to recognize that return to democracy was important, and the role that Comrade Chedi and all of us played, whether we were in Guyana, out of Guyana, civil society, faith-based organization, everyone working together to ensure that we will put an end to dictatorship and oppressive government. So I thank all of you for being here. And now we will open the floor for anyone who wants to leave, and I know the president will take his leave. If he wants to say, it's fine, but we will open our mic, and I see Evan, Comrade Evan, was trying to say something. If you would like to stay on, we'd be happy to have you.
I would love to, but
I know,
but
duty
maybe
calls.
if there is one or two critical questions that
Okay.
anybody want to ask me.
So
I'll take
Evans,
those
if you,
questions.
Evan,
Just one
okay.
quick comment. When you really need the mic. Comrade President, comrades standing and seated, Comrade Janet is with us every day, actually every second of the day, if you were to understand what's going on here. In 1964, before Comrade Chedi had to leave the premiership, there was a report already done by Russian geophysicists and geoscientists showing that oil was out there in the Atlantic Ocean since the early 1960s. And it was Comrade Janet who signed, who permitted ExxonMobil in 1999 to be able to explore out there in what is now known as the Stabroek Block. Maybe it should be called the Comrade Janet Block. Because every single barrel of oil that is produced every second is due to Comrade Janet. That's why she's living every single second, because oil is produced all the time, non-stop, 24 hours a day. So I wanted to make that point, that Comrade Janet is still here with us because of all that oil. As long as that oil is pumped, Janet Jagan is right there. And two other quick points.
You asked for one.
Yeah, is that next month, on the 24th of November, 2022, will be the 75th anniversary of the election of Comrade Chedi to the Legislative Council of British Guyana. So we got another big, next year it'll be 75 years to end more martyrs.
Thank you, Evan, historian at work there. I just want to say for all of you that we the Mrs Jagan Research Center, we're in the process of preparing a book on Comrade Janet, her biography actually. We were hoping that it would have been ready in October. Unfortunately, we have some delays. And we're also producing a book on Comrade Chedi. I should also add that. And the Mrs Jagan Research Center, we have a magazine called The Thinker, and which we have on sale. So we would like if you can, partake in the sales of these and contribute. If you would like to do an article, write a story or something, please feel free. You can send it to us so that we can incorporate it in our magazine. I have it here. It's called The Thinker. And as you may see, the front page, she's here with, I think it's Mao Zedong, many years ago. Okay, the second information, there is going to be a dinner and dance organized by the Mrs Jagan Research Center as a fundraiser. It's going to be on the 23rd of December. Please, we would love if you can come out and not only support us, but to have fun at the center here. So I just want to make that announcement. And also...
When I leave, Shane will take all my questions.
Okay. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
So any questions, Shane will take it. Seriously, he will handle it for us.
Mr. President, we need a good PA system here.
Comrade Gail has also said that she made a recommendation with